Yes.
Okay, so this is the chai ritual that we have every day. And the way it started was that with our group coming every year and Jouti being here for the last 3, every year there's naturally people who are very, very attracted to Jouti and want to work with her just because of her. I think it's a combination of both her condition, how young she is, and her personality, and just how alive and beautiful she is. And then last year in particular, she was very underweight, so there was so much attention focused on her, and people bringing her food and taking her out for chai and samosas every day, and bringing her fruit, and just really trying to bulk her up and nourish her. And then before we kind of were aware of what was going on, it felt like there was some jealousy kind of starting to build up amongst the other women, that she was getting so much attention. And one morning we were working here, I was in this area, and I heard shouting. And I went over to Jouti's room, and Baby was standing at the entrance to the room at the doorway and really shouting at Jouti and at the 1 or 2 people from our group who were there. And I was kind of picking up that it was about, every day you give her samosas and you give me nothing, and this kind of energy. And Jouti was very upset. So myself and Maria, another friend who was working here, kind of just took Baby out of the room to kind of lessen Jouti's distress, obviously. And we were just standing out here with her in the courtyard. And she was really just kind of really venting and kind of still very, very, very kind of loud tones sharing with us how upset she was. And then whenever there was a lull or a bit of a quiet time, we would just gently say, yes, but look at Jouti, see, we're really worried that she's not going to survive, she's so thin, and look at her condition. And after about 10 minutes of this, Baby just burst out crying. And when the women here cry, it always feels like a volcano, because it's like so much held suffering that's never expressed, that when it does happen, it like just literally bursts out. And she really cried for a few minutes, and we were hugging her. And when she finished crying, she said, okay, come and I'll make you some chai now. And that became a daily ritual we just carried on this year, which every day she makes chai for people in the group that are here. And she sends her mate, who's one of the cutest little creatures on this planet, to gather everyone up, and she goes off and even collects the people from the men's area. Everyone has to come, whatever they're doing, even if they don't want to, if they don't like sugar or tea or whatever, they all have to come. We sit here and we have chai with Baby. And it's really beautiful to me because of that sense of what started with a sense of jealousy about not receiving, ended up in an act of giving. So she's actually giving to us every day, and it's really about the attention and the being together rather than the material object. So it's not about us actually bringing samosas, it's about us offering our time and our attention and our care. So actually, if I just use this point, so this behind me, this lady, she just fell, I think 3 days ago. Yeah, kitna din pehle hai? 3 din pehle? 3 din? Or fracture hai?
Fracture.
Huh. So she fell, we came one morning. Sevagram. Okay, so she's been to Sevagram and back, so it may have been more than 3 days, maybe it's 4. We came here this morning, and she's one of the more able-bodied women usually, and she was lying in her bed crying, and she had fallen and hurt her leg and her arm. And at first they checked her for fractures and they thought she didn't have one, and then it must have been the next day they realized that her arm was fractured, so she went to Sevagram Hospital, which is 2 hours away, and is the only hospital in this area that will treat people with leprosy. So they can't go to the Aurora Hospital here. They have to go all the way to Sevagram, which is 2 hours away, and get treated for anything that's serious, like a fracture. And so you can see her arm. And actually before, when we were in the washing area, we saw Kausabai hanging someone's clothes. I didn't know whose they were, but now I saw her bring back the red bucket and put it under her bed. So it was, she obviously now can't do her washing, so Kausaba was doing the washing for her. And each woman has her own bucket. If you look under the beds, you'll see they all have their own buckets, which are theirs. It's kind of, I think, kind of about their sense of hygiene, which is different to ours. Like, we wouldn't have a problem showing a bucket, but for them, a bucket is a personal kind of thing where they water to wash themselves and to wash their clothes. So yeah, so when we wash clothes for someone, we also do that. We'll only use her bucket. Make sure that we get her bucket, not her neighbor's bucket. And,
is there a reason why the hospital won't take leprosy patients?
Stigma.
It's still that stigma, yeah. It's even, Aurora, where people from Aurora come here on the weekends to have a picnic and enjoy the beauty of the Mandarin. But the hospital still won't treat people with leprosy. There's still stigma, there's still fear. Even amongst doctors, even in places like Pune and Mumbai, people are really educated, doctors are really educated, even doctors are afraid. And it's ridiculous, but it's still there, even nowadays. So for anything, they have to take people there, which is a long way, especially for an elderly person in a situation of trauma. It's like a long way to go.
Is it difficult to treat them here, or is there not facilities?
They haven't got, even though they call the places here hospitals, they're actually what we would just call a clinic. So there's no surgeons, for example, and they haven't got the facilities to make a cast.
We saw the operation table and the operating room, but there's no surgeons here.
No, the operation rooms are only used when they have surgery camps.
Oh.
Which they do have when surgeons
like
come from. Like the eye camp, they've got quite a few. They've got the eye camp, they've got a big gyno one, where gynecologists come, I think, also from Mumbai, and do a lot of treatments. And when those happen, of course, they're not just for people from Anandawan, the service is offered to people in the whole area. They've got a plastic surgery one with surgeons from the UK that have been coming for, I think, 14 or 15
Dr.
years.
Paul told us about that.
Yeah, so they do. The OTs do get used. Like, they are a facility that gets used, but only for those periods when there's a camp. And then they do get a lot of use. I mean, there's 1,800 cataract surgeries here a year, so that's quite a lot of use for the.
Speaking of how gynecologists only visit once in a while, I've been curious about this.